Everybody has a talent. It's about looking for it. Every child has a talent. We need to build on that talent, and I think that there are a lot of disenfranchised young children in this country because nobody has time to find out what their talent is. And when I started doing television, I used to do twice the amount of work as everyone else had to do because I had to check the script, check the autocue, because it was a live show. I wasn't going to make a mistake and I didn't want to be picked up on any of my dyslexic traits. So I would just work harder.
Is that a life-changing moment for you?
Well, actually.
Hi, I'm Richard Farley and welcome to my Business Of series, produced by City AM. In this series, we explore different industries and the people who shape them, uncovering what it takes to succeed and adapt in an ever-changing business landscape. Today's episode focuses on the business of reinvention, and I'm thrilled to have Anthea Turner as our guest. Anthea has been a familiar face on British television for decades, navigating the highs and the lows of an ever-evolving media landscape. From Blue Peter to Top of the Pops, reality TV and lifestyle coaching, she has continually reinvented herself, embracing new opportunities and challenges along the way. In this episode, we'll explore how she's adapted to industry shifts, handled public scrutiny, and found success beyond the screen. Whether you're an entrepreneur, a creative, or simply looking for inspiration to pivot in your own life, Anthea's journey offers valuable lessons on resilience, reinvention, and staying relevant in a fast-changing world. Hi, Anthea, and thank you for coming on the show.
It's a pleasure.
I don't really know where to start. Well, first we've got to start with our shirts because we didn't coordinate. We've both got stripes on.
We should have spoken.
We've
got stripes behind us. We're wearing stripes. Mine's got a pony.
Yes, I won't show you. Mine's a cheap brand. I won't show you what mine's got hidden underneath. But I was just thinking, how would you describe, how would you describe yourself? Let's get straight into how would you describe Anthea Turner?
An old telly tot. Who's still doing it.
Well, that's the thing. When I was thinking about your career, it's television, books, radio, social media, and God knows what else you've done, but at least those things.
It's very difficult, I think, when you get to my age, looking back. Well, actually, somebody once said to me, and I do quite like this, life makes more sense backwards. So I am now able to look back and have a semblance of order on what's happened to me from the beginning to where I sit now. But I think I did a book once called Fools Rush In Where Angels Fear to Tread. And I have to say that I think when I got into this business, it was a series of, and I don't know whether to say fortunate or unfortunate accidents, that one thing led to another. And I think unless you've gone to university to study for a particular trade, I think that probably resonates with a lot of people. How did I get into the job I got into? Well, I started out sort of zigzagging and somehow I ended up here.
Did you ever, was little Anthea much like grown up? Did you like telling stories? You were always in the school play? Were you?
Well, I think I ended up working in the media because I am dyslexic. It's an unusual dyslexia. It's not the one that you obviously can't read because I wouldn't have been able to have done my job if I couldn't read. Mine is the way that my brain used to photograph words, and by the time I was 7, I could read fluently, but I couldn't write those down because of the way that my brain saw a word. But this is the 60s when nobody knows things like that. So I obviously, tap dancing, concentrated on everything that didn't involve writing things down. So of course my mum was a teacher. She didn't even know what dyslexia was. We're talking 1967 when we've suddenly realised that this kid who can read can't actually write anything down. You end up doing ballet, tap, horse riding, art, you name it, whatever I could do that opened up my world that didn't involve writing, I was going to do. And I sort of carried on like that. You
went to school, then did you do okay at school with your dyslexia?
Well, this is what happened. I'd gone to this lovely primary school where I'd been in all the school plays and had a great time. And everybody was funneled into the local comprehensive school. And in my case, it depended which side of the crossroads you lived, which school you went to. And I went to this school. It was a very, very big, impersonal, comprehensive school. And I arrived there with a lot of childhood confidence. It wasn't a cocky confidence, but I was very confident and I was very happy and I had lots of friends. And all of a sudden, we were streamed. So you were put in classes, you had taken the 11 plus, and obviously my written work, as I've just mentioned, didn't really come up to scratch. And we all arrived there and we were put in these lines. And I didn't completely understand what these lines were all about, but they were plainly lines of intelligence. And I was put in the line second from the very bottom.
How many lines were there?
There's
only 3, it's not so bad.
No, this is bad. This is bad. There was the GCSE line, 2 of those. Really, people who were really going to do well, not so well. Then there was CSE, and then it sort of went slowly down to what we used to call remedial. And I was just one off remedial. And it occurred to me, of course, none of my friends were in the same line as myself. And I will always remember that, you know, the little lump in your throat when you suddenly realise that something's gone horribly wrong, but I don't quite know what it is. And I want to cry, but I obviously can't cry. And I do remember going to the toilets and locking myself in a cubicle and just being shocked.
You look a bit teary now at the
memory. It shocked me, and I'm only, you know, I'm young. I'm only sort of 12, barely 12.
Is there an alternative? I mean, so that could it have been done? I mean, we're going to get on to, you know, Anthea as an adult, but could that have been done better?
I suppose different schools ran it in different ways. I don't think there was an alternative to the system at the time. I think what they do now is everyone is mixed and they can go out to their various lessons, is a better way of putting it, because there's no use putting a child who is struggling at maths in a high stream with math. That's cruel to the child. But socially, you want to keep kids together and mixed, so that there isn't this, oh, we're the bright ones, we're really looked after because we're going to do very well for the school and get our GCSEs, you not so good. And I think what is important, and I know that, you know, this has really stayed with me, is everybody has a talent. It's about looking for it. Every child has a talent. You know, I have worked with a lot of dyslexic children, and I remember there was one who, you know, absolutely awful, couldn't read, couldn't write, but the most amazing cook, just had this instinct for cooking and food. That's your talent. So we need to build on that talent, and I think that there are a lot of disenfranchised young children in this country because nobody has time to find out what their talent is, and it might not be the norm. If it's the norm, you're fine. You're absolutely fine. What happened with me, I did get out of that system. My mom, as I mentioned, was a teacher. She had retired really to look after her 3 children, and because one was handicapped, you know, she needed to be with us. So she put her career on one side. She did know people in the teaching profession. She'd never heard, nobody could really work out what the problem was with me. And oddly, I was taken for an interview at a grammar school, which sounds a little crazy considering everything that I've just mentioned to you. And Sister Mary Edward said to my parents, I'd like you to sit outside. I'm just going to have a chat with Anthea. And she came out and she said to my mum and dad, she said, well, she's clearly bright. I've had a lovely conversation with her. We're going to take her and we're going to find out what the problem is.
Is that a life-changing moment for you?
Well, actually, yes. It was.
Do you think if you'd have stayed in the comprehensive school, that they would have found your other talents?
No, I don't think I would honestly be sitting here today. So
that was huge for your confidence and for your future.
Oh, it just, you know, and I often say to people when I give talks, and sometimes these are to kids who have dyslexia, you know, confidence is the key to life. If a child loses their confidence, you can see them completely and utterly closed down. My lucky card was the fact I had a great mum and dad and I had that support. And I had, you know, a little bit of a tiger mum who was definitely just said, no, there's a problem and we're going to sort it and fix it and I'm going to find out. And had I not have had that, I don't know what would have happened to me. But Sister Mary Edwards sent me to an educational psychologist, and I did you have to do all putting things in order and all these weird things that they ask you to do. And I came out, you'll find this quite surprising.
Okay.
You know me
You're not very good
enough.
speaking? Or you...
No, I came out with a very, very healthy IQ.
Oh.
But so there was this huge problem with what I wrote and how I reacted. And I think some of that survival instinct that I have has come from having to, at a very early age, prove myself constantly because I knew there was a scramble in my brain. I do speak to quite a lot of dyslexics who I'm quite tidy, and I have to be because it's the only way I can operate.
Are a lot of dyslexics like that?
There are quite a lot, yes, who will put things in order because they know there's a little bit of a scramble going on in the brain. And so the only way to navigate this is by being tidy and having little systems in in place to sort of run your life. So I know that a lot of who I am has come from that problem. But I do see it as not a hindrance now. I see it as a great help because I think it gave me the survival instinct that life is never going to be easy, but I have to I put more work into it than the next person. And when I started doing television, and I always remember it was really when I was doing Blue Peter, and I didn't come to Blue Peter until quite late on in my career, but I used to do twice the amount of work as everyone else had to do because I had to check the script, check the auto cue, check all the check what everybody else was doing, actually learn. I used to learn what everybody else was doing as well because it was a live show. I wasn't going to make a mistake and I didn't want to be picked up on any of my dyslexic traits. So I would just work harder.
So just to get to, you know, the step from school into sort of show business.
Right.
What happened? So you didn't go to university?
No.
Was that conscious? Did you miss out on going to university or did you consciously go into something else?
Well, as you can imagine, my collection of O-levels and A-levels are art, craft and design. I got an A-level in pottery, grade A.
From
Me and Johnny Vegas have got that.
Okay, all right. So it was natural to look for something else.
Of course, absolutely.
And were you worried that I'm struggling academically, but I'm bright, you know?
Yeah. I knew that I was never going to walk into a room and say, "Do you want to look at my O-level and A-level results?" I was going to have to walk into a room and pull a few more things out of the bag. So I feel, and I probably do that to this day. I knew I'd got to make my way in the world, wasn't quite sure where. I did a lot of dancing. I trained in classical ballet. Along the way, I was going to classes, 2-3 times a week. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I would go out to Manchester at the weekend. I did all my majors in ballet. And that gave me the confidence, actually, because it was something I could do. And nobody, I didn't have to... I didn't have to tot up any numbers. I didn't have to write anything down. It was ballet. So I loved it. I have to say that when I realized that this was this going to be my job? No, I don't think I want to do it for a job. I've really enjoyed it and it gave me some confidence. So I didn't quite know what to do when I left school. I got in at Lanchester which is an art school, to go and do a fine arts degree. But I had a year off, and when I went in, I realised that I didn't actually want to go and line up with my tray for food, and I'd had quite a good year off. I'd worked.
So that wasn't a career decision, that was just a sort of a food decision.
I just thought, I don't know if I really like this. Do I really want to go back into this educational environment? So no, I won't. So then, for some bizarre reason, I thought that the whole world, when you're 17, 18, I think it was I'm 18 and a half by this. You think the whole world is going to open up to you if you have a car for some reason. And my dad said, well, okay, I will get you a car, but you have to pay me back. So you have to get a job to pay me back. So I got a job working for the Automobile Association in breakdown and information services. So I was the person, when you're standing on the side of the road in the 70s, your car's broken down, you're in a bad mood, you ring the AA, little chirpy Anthea would go, hello, breakdown and information services, can I help you? And I would do everything I possibly could.
And what was your wackiest experience? A car running into a dog or something. That's something.
I do remember there was a lady who'd broken down, and I was trying to work out where she was. And of course, there's no mobile phones. There's no way of sort of, I'll drop pin and send it to you. This is where I'm. So you'd say to people, and I think it must have been dark, and look around, where are you? She sort of knew the general area she was in, but I got to send a patrol out to her, and I got the maps out. It was all proper opening maps. Where are you? So I'm looking at all these maps, studying these maps, and she keeps on, she's by an AA phone box, which has got a number, so that is helping me a little bit. But she says, I'm in the village, and she kept on going, yes, I'm in the village of Grit. I'm in the village of Grit. I spent such a long time trying to find the village of Grit and realised that it was one of those grit boxes they use for gritting the road. And I'd spent half an hour looking for the village of Grit. Anyway, to cut a very long story short, when I'm working for the AA, I'm loving it, by the way. I'm really quite enjoying it because they say to me, look, and would you like to do the road traffic reports for the local BBC station?
Oh, so this was a big break,
yes.
In a way.
So I went...
And sorry, who said that? Oh, because they were doing it already for them, and they liked your voice.
So they say
your voice was...
Yes. So, because I come from Stoke-on-Trent and I do have flat vowels, they come out. I will always have a bath. I sit on the grass. A book called Book. It depends where I am, how it comes out. Yes. But I got quite a posh accent for Stoke-on-Trent. So, would you like to do the road traffic reports? Well, actually, yeah, because it's an extra £14 a month in your pay packet. Yes, please. That's my petrol money, and I'm paying Dad back for this car, which is a Mini NVT 749W. I can't even remember my own registration at the moment, but I remember that one. Yeah. So I went, yeah, that's great. And then realised that I was quite enjoying doing the road traffic reports every morning when I went on my shift and in the evening as well.
Was this a radio or TV?
Radio, BBC Radio.
So you just phoned it in, sort of thing. You didn't go to the studio?
No. We had a studio in our AA centre, but to be honest, it was 3 minutes walk from their studio.
Yeah. And was it you read a script or you did?
Yes, I would read. I would compile it. So this is where the patrols would tell me where there was problems in the Stoke-on-Trent area. So maybe on the M6 or maybe coming through Hanley or Burslem, and there were roadworks. The road is up on Mere Lane or something like that. And I would, with great efficiency, read all these out to the presenter on the radio programme, and he would say, thank you very much, Anthea. I look forward to speaking to you again. We'd have a little bit of a laugh about the weather or, I don't know, something.
So that really was the moment that Anthea was born in a show business sense. Wow.
So I quite enjoyed that because all I had to do was talk.
And then that led to the next step.
Yeah, it sort of did. I used to go anoracking on the local BBC station, and anoracking is a term for people who just will go and do things for nothing because they quite like it. What can I do? I would sort of go over to the BBC station and make myself useful.
But you mean just turn up like an
knew
uninvited
me.
intern?
Yes.
You just go and make your coffee, and you're just walking off the street, make someone a coffee.
No, well, they knew me because I got to know them all.
Oh, because of the work you were doing.
The studio was only 3 minutes across the road.
Oh, I see. So they knew your face, so you could walk in whenever you like and just hobnob around.
Well, what happened was as well, they started to do outside broadcasts and things, and I would pop over because sometimes I'd do my reports from an outside broadcast. So it was all very lovely, but I was working for the AA.
This again reflects your personality because how you made yourself, looking at almost Anthea Turner because, I'm sort of approaching, because you are a person and a product, you really are. And so it's almost like the product development, your personal development is the product development. So it's almost at that point, because Anthea had the social skills and liked people and could look people in the eye and get on with people. That was very important, because if you were shy, you wouldn't have done that.
No.
No. And they got to know you. They knew your personality. Well, you're obviously bubbly personality. Yeah. So that sort of made you in a way.
I suppose it did, looking back, my eagerness and enthusiasm. And then what happened, because they did training courses and things, but they did, they wanted people, I was always worried that, they want people with a degree at the BBC. They wanted people, who probably had a little bit more, I felt, and I probably could have pushed myself, but a little bit more intelligence maybe. Anyway, what happened was, my lucky strike was a commercial station in the local area founded itself called Signal Radio. And Signal Radio began, and I went along there for a proper job. I thought, I'm going to leave the AA, go for a proper job. So I went for an interview, and I got the job because just always get your foot in the door, as a record librarian, which meant that I was running, and we had just had records, so nothing was downloaded. It was a library of records, and I was there to run it.
But you deliberately got a job in the sector.
Yes.
Because you wanted to, by then were you dreaming of being on the...
No, not necessarily. I just liked the environment. I thought, this is my environment. There's lots of people who all seem to be very chirpy and chatty. It's communication. I need to be in this world. I wasn't particularly thinking I was going to be on air. It was just, I liked the world. So I got a job as a record librarian, and I ran that record library beautifully. Everybody wanted to come into the record library. I had a coffee machine in it, which was a bit cutting edge at the time. I had lots of everything was done on little cards and things.
Your organisation skills you talked about.
Organisation skills.
But sorry, just go the records. These are records.
Proper records. LPs, singles.
Right. So not book records. These are records you get played.
Absolutely,
wow.
Because DJs in those days, they put a record on. And they put their earphones on, and they went like...
They would come and get all the records together to play on that show.
Exactly, because there was no other way of putting music on the radio apart from having the physical records.
You took the records into them for the...
Yes, they would come in, they'd say, this is what I want to play. Okay. They'd take them from the record library, they'd bring them back in, I would make them put them back themselves.
Then you became friends and talking to all the DJs. Of
course, absolutely. So I got on with everybody there, and I used to pop in on air as well and do the What's On diary. What's on in Stoke-on-Trent this week?
And that wasn't part of the original deal? They put you on?
No, I just went and did that because I quite liked it, and it was really nice. And we had a little chat and everything, and then I went back to my record library job. And then I started working with sales, and I started to sort of, do things around the station outside of being the record library.
Voluntarily for no pay?
Well, no extra pay. I was being paid in any case to be at Signal Radio. It was,
right, so you're just helping out?
Yeah, so I was helping out weekends. They do outside broadcasts, and I'd be the girl with the T-shirt and stickers and bringing people in. And so all of a sudden, radio, and I think this is when I probably became a little bit more serious about the whole world of work and understanding this, is that radio all of a sudden needed to change, and it couldn't rely on advertising revenue alone. It needed to start to open PR departments, it needed to put on shows, it needed to look for other ways of bringing revenue into the radio station. We're talking the early 80s now, late 70s, early 80s. So I subcontracted my record library work and set up a little PR department. And the first thing I did was create Miss Signal Radio. You wouldn't do anything like this now because it's very sexist. But I created, to get a little bit of a buzz in the area, a beauty competition for somebody to win the title of Miss Signal Radio. So it did very well, and I ran that, and we got some advertising as well around that. And then the next thing I did was booked Leo Sayer as a concert, and we made money out of the concert, which was really great. And then I booked David Cassidy.
Right, but these are these are sort of things a radio station wouldn't have been doing
No,
otherwise.
no. Radio stations were starting to do this. We were a very small radio station, and we used to look at what they were doing in Manchester and Birmingham, and got that idea. So that
a beauty contest on a radio station doesn't seem to work.
I know it doesn't really, does it? But we got an awful lot out of it because we put on an event where we had a proper beauty competition. It was all sponsored. It was sponsored by a local nightclub.
And then when you had the concerts with David Cassidy and Leo Sayer,
yes.
So we
sold tickets. Yes, we sponsored
them and you promoted them on your radio station.
Yeah, promoted them on the radio station, but we also got sponsors around that and made money out of it.
But that was your initiative.
Yes.
And so presumably the bosses, like for a young person working, it's good to impress the bosses and to keep your mind open and introduce new ideas. My son has just started a job as an engineer in Australia. I'm just saying exactly this. Yeah. Just be the one who comes up with ideas and just don't, just throw lots of ideas, be that person. And so you were that person.
That person who was, I suppose somewhere, not that I was articulating it at the time or thinking about it at the time, it was just a knee-jerk reaction, which is just get on with people and doors open for you. So then my next maneuver was a lot of record companies had come in and out, and I got to know a lot of the salespeople in the record companies, and I had a boyfriend at the time who was coming to live in London because he was leaving Stoke-on-Trent and moving down to London. So and I was just probably getting on the train and going to see him and coming back. But whilst I was in London, I got offered a job for a record company. It was WEA Records, which had a subsidiary, a smaller label called Magnet Records. And would I be interested in working for them? So I had a bit of a think about this and thought, maybe this is the time when I pack my bag and come down to London with a proper job working for a record company.
Did you have a mentor, or asking your parents, or did anyone with experience, or you just all your own instincts about what were the...
Well, I think, no, you don't think about things like that when you're that young, do you? You don't engage your brain in that way. Think, oh yes, let's just look at this. Have you got a pension policy or anything? No, you don't. You just, well, actually, that would be quite a good. I'd quite like to do that. And I think you always think, maybe by this point, I've always thought there'll be another job. If it doesn't work out, I'll find something else. It'll be okay. So I said yes. I would come and work for this record company. There was a little bit of a lag in time before I actually took up the job. And I happened to be at a party, and somebody who was an independent record plugger in the business, a guy called Golly Gallagher, who's still around today. I still keep in touch with him, largely by Facebook. But he said, oh, they're looking for a girl to be a VJ, because video jockeying was just going crazy at this point. A girl to be a VJ on Sky. Sky had only got about 200,000 homes in the UK, had Sky. So nobody, one man and a dog watched it really. You should go. They've got us holding some auditions. Why don't you go for the audition? I thought, well, okay, I'll go along. And I knew enough about music, and I'd watched Top of the Pops, and I thought, well, no, it's okay. So I went for the audition, and with Pat Sharp, Gary Davis, and I am ending there with Pat Sharp actually doing this audition, seeing what we look like together, and sort of got the same haircut at the time, I think, and I got the job. So I ended up joining Sky as a VJ.
And then your early 20s?
I'm now in my very early 20s.
Wow.
So that was where, and I think I just thought, well, I'll just do it because it's a bit more money. So I can always do another job working for a record company. I can always do another PR job because I still thought the PR was my calling. But I might not get a chance to do this again. So you're
sort of a risk taker, but take sensible risks.
Oh yeah, it's a sensible risk. Yeah, absolutely.
Not burning your bridges,
but
moving forward.
No, and I know it was a contract. It was like a 12-month contract I got. So I thought, well, I'll have a go. This is going to be great. And I had a go, and I really, really loved it. Really loved it, and did lots with Sky. The lady though who ran it when it came for contract renewal, brought me into the office and said they weren't going to renew my contract because she said, you see, the thing is, you're just not edgy enough. I was mortified. I wasn't edgy enough. And she actually said to me, you're just a little bit Blue Peter, I think, for this.
You were too nice.
Yes,
too nice, too girl next door.
Yes, exactly. And I was crestfallen. And I started to wonder, well, how can I make myself look edgy? What do I have to do to look edgy? Do I have to wear monkey boots? Do I have to have piercings? Do I have to have
I can't imagine an edgy Anthea.
No. And even when I tried, and I remember trying to look edgy, it just looked really weird. It didn't look right. So I lost that contract. But as luck would have it, they were doing auditions for Saturday morning television live from Manchester, and I went along to the audition, and I knew they'd already got a girl called Jenny Powell. I knew they'd already chosen a guy called Tony Doughty, and I thought, they've both got dark hair, I've got blonde hair, unless I really mess this up, I could actually get this.
So your instincts, you already had TV instincts.
I was just going,
yeah.
Right, okay then.
Yeah,
okay.
There's a lot of instinct in there. There's a lot of clever choices here. There are. It's sort of there's nice accidents happening along the way,
yeah.
But also you're making clever choices.
Only looking back. So I went up to Manchester. The last time I'd been in Manchester, I was probably doing ballet lessons, and I went up to Manchester. I went to the audition. And thankfully, because I'd done Sky, which was all live, I could sort of do that whole live thing. So I did the audition and I got the job. It was called Up to You. It was Saturday morning television, which in this country was an institution. So there I was with Jenny and Tony and myself doing Up to You, and I loved it. It was amazing. And that started to open doors, really, because it was on mainstream television. It wasn't Sky. Sky was sort of coming up, but this was where you started to get a little bit known. Fame was a byproduct, really. And for all of us at that point, I'd say that fame was always a byproduct of the job you did. I think if you ask a lot of kids now what they want to do, unfortunately, you've got a lot of people say, I want to be famous. And that's their lead license. It wasn't. And
so if we sort of hop through the next TVs after that, how many TV shows do you think? So that sort of got you to TV, to Anthea the TV personality.
Yeah.
And then Blue Peter's very famous, which I understand now. But Top of the Pops is also hugely famous.
Yeah, exactly. So these are now, well, because remember it's an undiluted medium. We haven't got different channels.
So there's four stations.
There's only really four.
So if you're on, someone's going to watch it.
Yeah, 5 hasn't arrived yet.
Yes.
So, and I think I was the Pop Tart on the block really at that point.
We're mid-80s by now.
Yeah.
Because we're going up to. I've heard this statistic. Is it true that you are the most photographed woman after Princess Di? Or Lady Di.
This is 90s.
In the 1990s.
Yes.
So we're moving along from doing the road traffic report, to becoming Anthea Turner, sort of the Anthea Turner within 10 years.
Yeah.
Where you're so photographed. So we jump fast forward a little bit. You get onto Top of the Pops. That must have been a huge gig, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was amazing, unbelievable. I've watched it since I was a kid. And it was a live show, always a live show at the time. And you stand there with that microphone and you hear that music that you know so well. And you think, I'm standing there and I'm presenting this. This is utterly amazing. And there's famous people around. It's just like, I had to pinch myself.
Presumably by then you walk down the street, people are starting to recognise you.
Yeah, you do get a bit of that. But it wasn't stratospheric. It was just nice, and I just always think with fame, you feel like you've got a world full of your friends. People are always nice who come up to you. I have never ever had anybody ever in all my years come up and say anything bad. Everybody, oh hello, oh it's so nice to see you, and of course I have a chat and. Do you
enjoy? Just digress a second, but on the fame side, do you enjoy that? Like, does it ever bother you?
I think if somebody comes up to you who is a viewer or has watched you on Blue Peter, to this day, I always have time for them, because I would not be here if it wasn't for them. And in Blue Peter, they really made sure that you went into the office, you signed letters, you signed photographs, you spent time with the children wherever they came up to you. You spent time, and that has always stayed with me. I think to a certain extent I would do it naturally because it's my personality, but I think it's massively important to do that. And of course, we couldn't chat to people in inverted commas via WhatsApps or DMs or however people converse now. This was proper speaking to people or answering letters. And Blue Peter were hot on that. I have found the fame game, there's a downside to it, of course there is. And my brand has been damaged on various occasions with that downside. But my core is always, I think, a fairly friendly, outgoing, open nature. I feel now I'm in a very good place when it comes to fame, because I was at an event yesterday where I looked around. There were lots of people who were the same age as me who've grown up with me. They've had their trials and tribulations and scrapes, and we all relate to each other. And it was very warm and very comforting to be with those, and it was a room full of ladies. I often am giving speeches, which is to do with, you first get, and I know you give a lot of speeches and talks, especially in the business arena. I do to lots of, they're often ladies groups and travel events and all sorts of things like that. And what do they really want to know? They want to know where it's gone wrong. They don't want to know.
Well, when I talk about business, I've got plenty of things to talk about with it which went wrong. But you learn more from the ones that went wrong.
Well, you
and
do.
Often they're funnier. And sometimes, success can sound rather boring. I did this. It's when I tried that didn't work. I got lucky doing that. It is a more interesting story.
Where you've had a bloody nose, and then you had to dust yourself down, pick yourself up, get back on your feet. And these are either things that have happened to you from a business point of view or a personal point of view. And those are the things that make us human. And I am so glad that I can speak on those levels now, because life does make more sense backwards, and I can look back on those and I can see the lessons that I have learned along the way that make me the woman I am today.
So I tried to bring a prop today just for a bit of fun, because I tried to bring, and you might be glad, that the flake. Well, I haven't got it with me. Oh, I do have it.
I hope that flake.
No,
it's a bounty bar. It's got nothing to do with it.
I know. I tried to.
If you bought a flake.
I went into Sainsbury's to get a flake as a prop, and I looked everywhere. They disappeared.
Horrible thing.
And I didn't know if you'd be happy or sad about that. So I brought in a bounty instead.
I thought they'd stopped doing bounty. Or had they tried to stop doing bounty?
But so you famously. It must have been about that size. Well,
I've seen the picture. That was a low point, and
but you were photographed, as I understand it, or you explained it. You were photographed holding a flake at your own wedding.
Yes.
And you got slammed. You basically you might have been the first person to get cancelled.
Yes, yeah. Cancelled before social media.
For holding a flake bar, it sounds ridiculous now, given what people can say.
It does sound ridiculous now, and it did cause a huge amount of damage.
Do you mind telling the story? So
no, I don't mind telling the story.
Your wedding was paid for. Is that you'd admit to?
I did a deal with a magazine for a wedding.
Yes.
And me, together with a lot of other people who have done it, who did it before,
yes,
and have done it since.
Yes.
What unfortunately happened was the deal was with OK Magazine. And the gentleman who owned it at the time, Richard Desmond, had also done a little deal to give a flake away with every copy of the magazine that actually I was in. I had nothing to do with that, absolutely nothing. It was purely, a few photographs for a wedding, and there was a payment, and that's, not unusual. I regret it now. having anything to do with that magazine. And I do remember what happened was, and I have to take myself back into this awful place.
For people who don't know, you were sitting at the wedding table, weren't you? And they asked you to hold a flake.
Well, you know what? The only reason that they were even there in the first place is because Mr. Desmond had said to me, "Look, I've got this promotion running. Do you want some at your wedding?" And I'm thinking, I don't really want a whole load of flakes at my wedding, really. But I had already pre-arranged a sweet stall, so that, you know, you have all the wedding things and then everybody's dancing, and somewhere around about 11:30 everybody gets the munchies. So I got this sort of coffee and this lovely, it looked like an old-fashioned sweet stall. So I said, well, I tell you what, I've got that. I've already ordered it. I've got all the, you know, all the sweets. It's a candy store. Yeah, it's a candy store. Put them on the candy store.
It's an innocent thing to say yes to.
Yeah.
Have some flakes.
I went, yeah, that's fine. Put them on the candy store. So they arrived, boxes of these. They were all on the candy store. That was it. At about so just before midnight, the best wedding, an amazing wedding, all my friends, family, it was sublime, best day of my life. It was, well, it turned out not to be. But that's another matter. But anyway, up until that point, and Richard Desmond's wife came up to me. And, you know, normally I don't know, my antennae wasn't up. I'm in my own home. It was a marquee in my garden. She came up to me, unwrapping this flake, and said, these are the words: "Could you make the old man happy and have a picture taken with one of these?" Yeah, okay then. I'd been on the luge, the vodka luge.
Yeah, as one should, right?
And I said, yeah, okay then. And I just had a picture taken with this flake. And I had also asked the picture desk and Richard Desmond, would you release one shot to the press? A nice, you don't have to show the whole dress, just a nice head and shoulder shot, which he had agreed to. Send a shot out to the newspapers because it takes the sting off. Because the problem is that newspapers were missing out on a lot of things. And this was not just me. Lots and lots and lots of events, because they were being bought up by OK Magazine or Hello Magazine at the time. So yeah, absolutely. And I knew there were lots of newspapers that were holding a section of their newspaper for a shot, and there'd have been a nice little report on it. You know, nobody was out to get me at this point.
I want to get through some more questions. I might have to. So you end up holding this.
So I ended up holding it.
You end up holding this flake.
Holding this flake, having the picture taken. Richard Desmond, instead of sending them one of the really lovely, nice wedding pictures, sent all the newspapers that picture. My fate was sealed. Actually, none of the newspapers, bar one, picked up on it. They just thought, they knew what he was playing at. It was an August bank holiday, and David Yelland, who was the editor at the time.
Newspaper? So one newspaper.
So the
Sun ran it, and that was enough to get you cancelled because
absolutely horrific, because it said that I had sold my wedding not to OK Magazine but to Cadbury's.
Right.
And oh my God, it was a catastrophe.
When you saw the picture before seeing the outrage,
yeah,
did you realise what was going to happen, or were you just?
Yeah, well, of course you wouldn't see the picture because it wasn't digital.
No, but when it came out on the day that it was came out,
well, by this point I'm on my way to Africa.
So you had no idea that there was
until my management company rang up and said, you won't have seen the newspaper, but the Sun have run a picture. None of the other papers picked it up on, because they weren't going to put that in.
And how quickly did it take to unravel?
It unravelled within. Nowadays it would have unravelled a lot quicker because of social media, but it unravelled very quickly. My good friend Lorraine Kelly, she had a live show. Obviously has a live show, and it was GMTV at the time. I went on her show, said this, protested my innocence.
But where did the outrage? Where did the outrage unravel?
Newspapers.
So the other newspapers then jumped on and said,
they're picking it up from the Sun.
They were saying this is outrageous.
Yeah, how is this a new low of selling your wedding to a commercial organisation?
Right. And do you think it was a little bit of, the tall poppy syndrome, where someone becomes
I mean, I think we all have suffered from that here and there, most definitely.
We got to become a tall poppy in the first place.
It doesn't, and it's still happening.
Yes,
it still happens.
So the new Anthea story was this. This is a
oh,
great
I
story.
gave it to them on a plate.
And what year are we roughly?
We are now 2000.
So this is after you've been photographed nearly as much as Diana.
I'm a very well-known person,
So it's a big story.
It's a huge story.
And if you had social media now, you'd also be able to react to it.
Oh, straight away.
I was not paid for this. This is all rubbish. But did you have any voice at all?
No, not really. I mean, I was so shocked. I think there are people who are a bit more savvy than myself. At this point, my normal, I can fight this, just fell apart.
Did you have a PR agency or anyone behind you?
No, not really. It wasn't like that in those days.
So what TV show were you on then?
So I wasn't on the TV show. I wasn't on a series then. I'd just done one for the BBC called Your Kids Are in Charge. I'd done that. That's been very successful. Then I got married. I expected probably to do another series of that.
So there wasn't any show that was going to... You couldn't even go on a live show and say, by the way, that's rubbish.
Well, you could... I mean, I did on Lorraine. Listen... Everybody knew in the industry, and I know this now, everybody knew it was a lie.
It's too good
a
story.
Rubbish.
It's a good story.
But there is this phrase, never let the truth get into the way of a good story.
Right.
And
do you think, do you think it affected your career after that?
Yes. Yeah, no, it did. But it affected more so than my career. It actually affected me. Emotionally, I'd had a few ups and downs. We all do, and we get over them, and it's quick. But this, at a cellular level, really, really affected me. And I would say for the best part of nearly 3 years, I was very down. I was, I don't have clinical depression. That's a completely different thing. But I definitely had reactive depression over that. And I was in a very bad place, a really bad place.
Do you think...
I couldn't, the me that I knew, even to some of my friends, I was embarrassed.
Do you think that behaviour, I mean, the press has been in the press, but do you think it's, obviously City AM would never do rubbish like that, but do you think that's
I think they clean their act. No.
Do you think there's still a risk that people, has it gotten better in the last 5 years with some big cases of people being slammed in the press and...
I think it has improved. I think it has improved. I can still read stories and know that that's not the full truth, or that's hanging on a few truths, but not many. I still see the tall poppy syndrome. I still see some of those old ways. But I do think that there is a better and more responsible press now, generally. Generally.
Yeah. And then your reinvention, because we were talking about the reinvention. You reinvented did you need to reinvent yourself, or you slowly just got back? Because now you've ended up doing a lot more TV since then. After.
Oh gosh,
anyway.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I had my downtime. I did a huge amount. I started to do lots for charities and things because I thought, for me, as much as them, it's a two-way thing here. But what can I do to stop becoming depressed? In those days, you didn't go to therapists. You didn't talk about your feelings. You didn't do any. You thought, what can I do? What can I do? I need to be useful. I need to
do something
use
for someone.
what I have.
Do something for someone worse off than yourself. That's one place to start.
And I found it was a good place for me, and I did. I threw myself into a lot of charity work. And then I started to feel better about me by giving. And slowly I started to mend the confidence. I lost my confidence. I completely and utterly lost my confidence. And my confidence isn't a cocky confidence. It is a confidence that I need to get up in the morning and do my job.
So it's also a little bit of confidence, whenever something like that happens to you. It's about your faith in humanity, and you think you're part of a system.
Well, because it was a lie, because it was an untruth, because this, I had been accused of something which I hadn't done.
Yes.
And I think it doesn't matter on what level that happens to a human, that is very undermining. and incredibly hurtful.
Yes.
And mine was on a public level. But I knew that I was absolutely innocent of all charges. So somehow I needed to get back on my feet. Somehow I needed to do my job, because it is actually my job.
So
It's been my job.
The charity work helped you
Charity
mentally,
work helped.
as well as helping other people, of course,
Yeah.
but helped you mentally. And did it take long to get another serious TV role?
Well, then I had, because of course notoriety, fame, notoriety, they start to become linked in some way. It was Comic Relief. And Richard Curtis had decided, who obviously ran Comic Relief, it was his idea to start off with, he's the director for Weddings and a Funeral, etc., etc. And he decided what he was going to do was to put a bunch of celebrities in the Big Brother house. He was going to put them live on Channel 4 and live on BBC and see what happens. BBC didn't want to do it, Channel 4 didn't want to do it, but he made them. And then he sat me down in his kitchen and fed me hobnobs and coffee until I said, yes,
Right.
I'll go in.
Yeah.
Nobody got paid. It was all for Comic Relief. It wasn't anything like it is now. Up until this point, there was no I'm a celebrity anything.
So, but how long are you in the house?
So they put us in for a week, Jack D being the most famous. Jack D, Chris Eubank, Keith Duffy, Vanessa
So
Feltz.
he invited you, whose brand had been slightly
Yeah.
affected. So,
Yeah.
So this was your chance to just be seen as normal,
Well,
Anthea.
it was a chance for all these celebrities to be seen as normal. We all came over as basket cases, frankly,
Right.
and it was hilarious. Vanessa obviously talks about her meltdown, which was all the
So you got a
writing
chance
on the.
to air your.
And I thank Jack D from the bottom of my heart, because we didn't actually know the figures we were getting, but the figures were going higher and higher and higher for this. They reached 10 million. Channel 4 all of a sudden decided that it was their idea. They really loved it, and so did the BBC, because it put a lot of money and figures on the Comic Relief night,
Right.
the big night on the Friday night. But Jack D threw me the line about the wedding, and I was able, with a very large audience, to say what really happened.
And how many years after, or how long
Oh
after
no,
the wedding?
this was a year afterwards.
Right.
I was able to do that, and
On a huge audience,
on a
to a huge audience.
huge audience. And the other person I have to thank is actually Piers Morgan,
Right.
because Piers Morgan, when he left the Mirror with a few of his own problems, did a series called Tabloid Tales, and I was the one of the people that he wanted on Tabloid Tales, and we did quite an in-depth interview. And I was able, on that programme, to say exactly what had happened. Piers knew what had happened. Most of the editors knew what had happened. But of course, we go back to, it was a good story. And what do they do?
But so there were some good deeds
There
out there.
was some very good deeds. And I was allowed on Piers Morgan Show, which rated really highly, to be able to
And
say
then you've
what
done,
really
just one thing that I watched a lot was when you're on the jump. I mean, it's one thing to be sort of Anthea, Anthea, the nice person, who's very bubbly and very people oriented, etc., right? But it's another thing to jump off an Olympic ski jump, and where people do break bones, and people did break bones.
They did break bones. Well, you see, what happened is, and what's very interesting with our industry is that, I did the first celebrity program of that type. So after that, you could see television stations and independent production companies were thumbing through, what can we do with celebrities now? So that celebrity type program all came from that one show for Comic Relief.
Yes.
And in actual fact, they have been, I think, they've been a godsend to some people, because what it allowed me to do was to put my brand out there, to put me out there, give myself something to do, show, get up, scrub up and show up.
Well, I know you went on the dancing.
I did Dancing on Ice.
But that is not sort of out of your,
No, it's not.
But the jump, so when you look at the business of celebrity, the business of reinvention, the business of survival for you,
they were my stepping stones. They were actually my stepping stones.
But how the business changing for how if you were starting out now, would you do much differently? Obviously you wouldn't hold a flake at a wedding.
No, no.
But how has it changed? Obviously, social media is huge now. You're big on social media.
Yeah.
How has it? How's it changed? Is it less innocent?
It is less. It is less innocent. What it's done is the business has expanded. There are many more tentacles to it. I think if you want to stay in it and you want to stay active in it, then you have to embrace all those. You can't sit there being an old trout going, oh, it was different in my day. Yes, it was. I was very, very lucky that my fame star grew when we were not a diluted medium. So it grew during the 90s and the 2000s, before we had all these stations, all these options, and on some iconic television programs. So the reason that I'm still here and I'm still working is because I have utilized that. And there was a time when you'd be slightly embarrassed about, oh, no, I can't, you can't monetize Faye. Oh, no, that's not the right thing to do. Because television presenters sat behind a desk. They didn't come forward. Angela Rippon was the first one during Morecambe and Wise to come from behind her newscaster desk and, do high kicks. She's still known for that to this day, which is why she's doing a great advert on telly at the moment. But it was with the birth of OK Magazine and Hello Magazine, when they came on board, it changed the landscape, because all the newspapers brought out their own magazines, and all the television presenters, myself included, all of a sudden weren't just presenting a television program. People wanted to know about us. They wanted to know about our personal life. We wanted to know what we were wearing, the way we ticked. So we became interviewed. Every time you're interviewed, you give a little bit of yourself away. And so that's where it all started. There was Ulrika Johnson, myself, Carol Smiley, Carol Vorderman, Annika Rice. We're all still around. And that's how the landscape changed.
So you've sort of been an innovator. I mean, you've followed the innovation. So, but you've been an innovator because you've been with the industry, and you've, the Big Brother sort of thing.
Absolutely.
Going into the jump. Being someone showing a different side of
Celebrity
yourself.
SAS.
You've sort of witnessed every.
I have, and because it was the world I entered, the lovely world of Top of the Pops and Blue Peter and Wish You Were Here and things like that were incredibly innocent. Fame was very innocent. You didn't monetize it in the same way. Now it is a completely different animal, and like all people in business, you can stay stagnant or you go with the flow and say, social media, to me, what do I do with it? I don't get involved really in the Twitter X, but I do because I've realized that Instagram is a great forum for people. Social media gets a bashing, but some of it is highly productive.
Yeah, I think it's here to stay, so you might,
oh my
might
God,
as well embrace
I
it.
just
might as well
love
embrace
it.
it rather than fighting it.
And I found my tribe there.
Yeah.
And my followers are very reactive. I'm also, because of all of that, I am brand ambassador for Silver Marketing, where I am able to represent my age group.
So Silver Marketing is what, a corporation? Or
It's an umbrella organization which helps other marketing companies talk to people like you and myself to understand, because they have a lot of youngsters working for them that have come out of university, and one of the products they need to talk about or they need to promote and sell is to an older age group. How do you talk to them? Who are we? What are we about? And so we run an awful lot of summits, forums, online. There's a whole support structure there which helps them talk to us, because we are an amazing generation. We're the baby boomers of the 60s. We changed the world. We are not our parents. We are very different to them. We were the ones out there, kicking, screaming, moving, traversing this life. And actually a lot of people don't know how to talk to our age group. They think that we're all interested in arranging our funerals, taking money out of our properties, or going to garden centres.
No, none of those things.
No, we're not. When you just think, you think back to the people, the older people of your childhood. There wasn't anything in my mum's wardrobe I would have worn. My stepdaughter's can I borrow? Have you got any shoes that are going to match that? So it's we are a whole different age group than the same age that our parents were at the same age.
Do you think, just on ageism and being an old woman that's older than she was,
the scrubbed up over 50s.
Right. But they took, women complain about, on TV that they get, no longer any use, particularly women, but maybe men as well. I don't know. But do you ever feel you've been you've
no,
grown
not
with
at all.
it? You've been able to beat it.
Yeah, because I'm very proud of representing my age. I have looked after my brand as far as the shell. When I said to you, I said, this probably first came to mind in clarity when I had the tax lady came to talk to me about what I was claiming for. And obviously she was sitting there waiting to rip into me. And we had a conversation about what it is like to be a sole trader and a sole trader in this business. And I said to her, because I must admit, I was fighting around thinking, how am I going to explain this to this lady? Because she doesn't know anything about my business and it's really, really difficult. And the analogy I gave her, I said, listen, if I sat in front of you and I'm sitting in front of you like you're her now, you are her.
With a clipboard.
Yes.
Yep.
She's about to get me. What can I come up with? And I said, if I was sitting in front of you and I ran a car company and I had this car that has to be ready at all times to do its job. It's got to be MOT'd, it's got to be taxed, it's got to be clean, it's got to be valeted. If there's a scratch on it, you need to polish that out. I, as the driver, I need to be wearing the right clothes, whether I'm driving somebody for a business meeting, a wedding, a funeral. We wouldn't be having this conversation. I am what I have.
But because you're claiming for clothes and
clothes, hair, nails.
Anything else that needs to be.
Anything else.
We want to. Yes.
You don't need to go into everything.
Yeah. So,
but,
deductibles, personal deductibles
absolutely.
become tax deductions because you are
the
brand.
I am the brand. I have to look after that brand. I have to look after it physically. Some of the jobs that I get.
What we're looking at, the lovely product we're looking at, is half paid for by the government. That's one thing the government's not wasting money on.
It's not wasting money because I do a lot of
value.
Value for money.
Yeah.
I would say, because I am, looking at myself as this third part, which is difficult, but I've had to do it. Is that when I get up and I am booked to go somewhere, I am not booked to go somewhere and look like I've just got out of bed. I didn't blow dry my hair. I didn't put any makeup on. I've let myself go because it might be a brand which is a health and fitness.
You've done. You're an amazing example of someone our age.
You've actually said it. You've our age.
I'm
age.
A few months younger, Anna. Yes.
There's 6 months between us.
I like it for a few months when you're a year older than I am. But I was going to ask you, so the final question, because obviously so much to ask. But so what next for Anthea? Is there a what next, or is it going to be like before, where it's just whatever comes along?
I'm going to name drop now. I had a little conversation about this. It was actually with boy George. George and I, he's an interesting story, and his advice is know what you're good at and keep doing it. And I think that's what I will do. I know what I'm good at now. I know what I'm really bad at. I know what I'm good at, and I will keep doing it. And I will, with my tribe, my audience, my age group, I will grow along with them and hope that I can help and I can look after my brand.
Good on you, and I think you will. Yeah. Well, thank you for coming on the show. It's very interesting. We could chat. Can barely talk about 10% of what you've done. Can't even talk about all your books. You've written 10 or more or something. Can't even talk about that. But I know you've written one on divorce, on staying young, on doing up your bedroom, and
anything.
So you've got a lot of skills in there. But thank you very much for coming on
spread betting.
today.
I think you would call it. What would you call it? Because you've traded for such a long time. You're a trader. What would you
What
call
would
it?
I call what?
Is it spread betting? Is it?
What you're doing,
Yeah.
diversification, a bit of diversification, but as you say, you're in your lane, aren't
Yeah.
you? You know, they're all in your,
Yeah.
in your what do they, with Americans call it, your wheelhouse or something? They're all within your skill set, aren't
Yeah.
they? So.